Welcome to the 2-month review. Without Brian here to harass me, I can actually do the whole introduction. This is the 2-month review, the weekly podcast from 3% Open Letter, where we take one book, read it section by section, bit by bit, enjoying it, talking about it, unpacking it, so on and so forth. This season, we're talking about Dubravka Ugresic's Fox, and today we'll be talking about the first half of the second part. Part 2 is a balancing art, and we're going to be going over pages 45 to 75. And now Brian is here to make fun of my whole entire introduction.
Your daughter over what? Reading list?
How you doing, Matt? As loud. I could delay and chat here, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to wait patiently.
That you had to read.
Hello?
Hey, there you are.
Hi. I picked a short cord, unfortunately, so sorry for the extreme close-up. There we go.
Oh. As I said, I'm trying to imitate you with the straight black background, so I look cool.
Well, there's some bricks. And
I don't have that. I
think it looks cooler with the, I look like a professional podcaster or whatever. I don't know.
A YouTuber?
Yeah.
A professional YouTuber?
No, the professional YouTubers, they play with kids' toys and they open them up and you just see their hands. It's like, oh, look, here, surprise eggs. And those folks make 6 figures a month off of that.
I've seen that before. And they even have ones that are opening boxes of YA books.
Yep. Surprise.
Look, it's another book about vampires.
We should do an unboxing podcast. That would get some clicks.
We could unbox all kinds of stuff.
So I don't know. I didn't hear your intro, and it doesn't really matter because they're pretty much pointless.
Yep,
but
it's all exactly the same as always.
I do have 10 fun facts. What is he doing here?
Hey, Brian.
Oh, man.
You thought this was a once a book thing, but not this time, buddy.
Tom made a special request to come on just to surprise you.
I heard y'all didn't have another guest this time around, so I figured I'd be a mensch. I'd hop in on that, but yeah.
All right. Well, my bit for this week is I have 10 fun facts about Croatia that I'm just going to randomly slip in. It's not even a listicle. I'm just going to bring them into the conversation. You won't even know that I'm
inserting
fun facts about Croatia during this podcast.
That's awesome. Yeah. I have our to follow in with the other week's sort of Croatia moment is that their World Cup team won again. They're going to go through to the knockout phase, and this is a bold prediction on my part, they're playing tomorrow against Iceland. This is Monday we're recording this. It'll be a podcast on Thursday, so all of this will have happened by then. But tomorrow
it'll be the most racist game.
It will be a very racist. Well, I have something to say about that too. That actually relates to this section. But no, with the game, I'm willing to bet that Croatia throws the game against Iceland to keep Argentina out of the knockout round.
Just to screw Argentina. Yeah.
Just to screw Argentina.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
I've actually been thinking about that a little bit. I mean,
that is a super corrupt national men's soccer team, our country, I suppose. So I would not put it past them at all.
Yeah.
So it would be some sort of cleansing. That's never happened. That's never happened on the coast of the Adriatic before. So.
Lots of white teams making it through. There was the other thing that's related to that. That's sort of the background to Dubravka's life in some sense. Is that did you see the stuff about when Switzerland played Serbia? So
Switzerland, Serbia? No, I did not.
Okay, so Serbia, their supporters. I don't think it was any of the players.
Yeah, I did see this. They
were wearing shirts with the guy that was that was committed all the war crimes and murdered all the Albanians. Mm-hmm. And two of the players on the Swiss team are Albanian or have Albanian heritage. One of them I think came from Albania. The other one was second generation or whatever. So when they score, they did this eagle sign that's a sign of Albania, and they're apparently being investigated for FIFA for inciting the public to be pissed at the Serbian team by trying to use this political gesture when they scored their goals.
That's also going along with the guy from Egypt, right? Mohamed Salah.
Salah, yeah. He plays for football, which is my team. Yep. But he took a picture with the leader of Chechnya. and was playing him in Andrei Chechenian. And
Yeah, not a good look, I guess.
the headline is like, Salah does not want to be used as a pawn. I'm like, oh, what did the Egyptian FA do? Like, did they do something really stupid about like posing him? No, he chose to take the fucking picture. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like Salah got like, positioned in a weird way in a group photo next to the guy. He marched around the stadium like rubbing elbows with this dude. Like, I love you, Salah. You do great things for Liverpool, but that's one of the dumbest things I've seen in a minute. But
Yeah, I mean, speaking of dumb, did you know that the hit show HBO series Game of Thrones was filmed on the Dalmatian coast of Croatia?
see, we promised that we wouldn't know where, like, without a Croatian fact, which made it more fun for us because then it became a guessing game.
No,
Maybe
I'm
that's
just
a lie.
saying.
I don't know if that's true.
I was thinking of dumb things, and like Game of Thrones popped into my head, and I'm like, oh, that's filmed in Croatia on the Dalmatian coast.
Nice. I like to circle back on that. That was good.
Who knew?
Just
Who knew?
reinforce one more time that Game of Thrones is dumb.
And 9 more to come. Here we go. Yeah. All right.
Oh my.
Oh boy! See, this is what you wanted, Tom. This is what you wanted. So
I did ask for this. Yes.
If anyone doesn't recognize that voice, it is Tom Flynn from Volumes Book Cafe here, back again to harass us.
Mostly Brian, but yes, you as well, Chad.
I'll take a little bit of it.
Yeah, that's for you too.
Just a touch.
He's
So anyways.
my blossoming nemesis, apparently. This is great.
Man, I can't wait for you to go on book tour. It's gonna be fun.
Oh man, you need to have Brian there for your book tour, or for his book tour.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll schedule it. We'll just mess with them the entire time. It'll be beautiful.
That would be amazing. I will come for that.
I kind of assumed you would. That's sort of built in. You have to be Brian's mind around this one.
No, that would be so cool. I will go as your personal assistant for your book readings.
What's job's already taken?
I don't know whose kid that could be.
That's mine. She just came down from the roof. So for whatever reason, we have a grill on the roof of our building, and she told me, I want to have an egg on the roof. So I just went up to the roof to grill an egg, and I just came down, and she just not came down. So she's very excited.
Nice, very cool. So so we were talking about the second part of this book today, which is a balancing art. And we're only talking about the first half of it. So it's like a 60-page section or thereabouts, and we're only going up to page 75, which is the first 6 sort of chapters within it. And just to frame this, the basic thing is that the narrator is invited to a literary conference in Pompeii, or in Naples, I guess. Someone's thing is reverberating. No,
I don't think so.
I think it might be mine. It might be these crappy headphones. I'm gonna have to switch them in a second. We'll edit this out. But so the narrator is invited to Naples for a literary conference. Goes to Pompeii. It's a conference on exile and immigration. And then once she's there, she takes a tour. Then she meets the widow of this famous writer who's on the panel with her. And the widow is like sort of the celebrity of that panel. And they end up talking afterwards, having an interesting conversation. And then the widow convinces the narrator to stay for a few extra days so they can go hang out in Naples together. That's pretty much everything, right?
Yeah, that covers it.
Cool. Let me know what you guys think. I'm going to try a different pair of headphones because these are driving me insane.
I have mine on mute because there's a lot of noise right now.
So
at least it wasn't Fortnite that screwed everything up this time.
That's fair.
Although they're playing Minecraft, and that might just crash the world too.
Those are pretty outstanding orange. Like that's.
I know, bright. They're like open letter orange.
Nice. I was thinking the Dutch national team, but sure, that works too.
Oh fuck that Dutch national team!
Did they make the tournament?
No, they didn't. The Dutch and the Italians both did not make the tournament.
And the American. Don't forget us.
You know what?
Too.
We don't but like it's more of a big deal that the Dutch and Italians didn't make the tournament.
Yeah.
Maybe just a bit.
No, except that who was it? Was it Nike or somebody that just spent a bunch of money for the national team? Like in preparation for the World Cup?
For the U.S. national team?
Yeah.
Probably Nike.
Well, they had,
Or
the whole
Under
ad,
Armour.
they had a whole ad campaign laid out or something like that, and then all for naught. Yeah,
Yep.
sounds about right.
I'm a sucker for these Volkswagen jump on the wagon ads, and I feel embarrassed to admit that, but I'm all in on those.
They've been pretty amusing.
Yeah, like the Icelandic one with the woman driving, she's like, you can jump on our team. We don't even have enough people to do the wave. And the guy raises his hands, she's like, put your hands down, Sven. Just keeps driving. Love it. So anyways, about books, what do you think of this particular section, especially compared to the last one?
I was wondering what you guys thought if she's taking a little bit of a run at autofiction in this section.
Oh.
That's funny. We just talked about autofiction, right? When I
mean,
Chad had his Fortnite broke his computer.
Yeah.
And we had to fill in time. We were talking about autofiction.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
were
came
you
up a little bit, but this time it feels a little bit like the last one had a little bit more of that sort of, critical vibe in terms of going at Pilniak and all that. But obviously referring back to, the narrator's youth and time in the Soviet Union. But I don't know, there's just something about a quality of this one that and some of the sections that sort of jump at me a little bit, especially when it pertains to addressing like the reputation or the size of the author, like how the author as a character unto themselves a little bit.
Yeah. You go, Brian.
Yeah, like I thought for sure this felt much more chatty than the first section. Was all I was going to add. Very, very lame on my part, but yeah, like the tone was very much different.
There is like, I know what you mean about the autofiction, but I've always seen it as, well, this voice is similar to a lot of what her essay voice is like.
Right, there's that.
Like karaoke culture. And they always feel like they're kind of like autofiction-esque, as if these things could have really happened to her and they're just being slightly manipulated a bit to bring out the funnier parts or the more like poignant moments. But in this part, and this will develop in the second half too, so this is a bit of a cheat, but like a lot of it revolves around that widow, and the widow being like a celebrity of sorts. And I don't know if that ties in so much to autofiction as like you happen to be next to some very important author or whatever and sort of basking in that glow of that, or like taking advantage of it. And I believe that Ellen said that there's a person she thought this might be based on. I don't remember if who it was, and I don't remember what the full story was, but one of the translators had mentioned that that she thought that it was based on this rumor that this widow had actually been writing a lot of this one author's books after they passed away, and was sort of taking the glory for that. So I guess that's in there as well.
Huh, that's interesting.
One thing we didn't mention last week, and this is on me, and I thought of it immediately after this ended, so I'm going to interject it now, is that this book has two translators, and David Williams did the first section, which was the one we did last week, and then Ellen Elias Bursack did the rest of it. So I don't know if you noticed any difference between the two. I don't think that there is anything that stands out that much in terms of like their translation quality, because they both worked with her for a very long time. Ellen's a all-time pro. And David's like been very good with working with Dubravka, and I think that's mainly what he's translated, is her works. But they're both very good. But it is worth mentioning, because I keep saying Ellen and I keep forgetting to mention David, and he deserves credit for this as well.
Yeah, I could tell it's very amateur on both ends, and I just didn't want to mention it because I was raised, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything. So no, I'm not smart enough to know what to look for.
I've never been able to pick that apart in any book personally.
For this, I definitely don't think that there's that much of a difference, and it's all like kind of, I think, I don't know, they probably worked on it a little bit together, or Ellen's read the first part or whatever, so there's not really any inconsistencies. Not to mention that each section of this does seem to be a slightly different moment from the narrator, so the voice does shift a bit. And that sort of can make that even easier to appeal. But I mostly just want to take a second to praise David as well.
Yeah, and the thing that I keep thinking back to as well is that oddly enough, Croatia is home of the world's smallest town. It's actually a place called Hum that the population is between 17 and 23. Yeah.
Is it like when school's in session, it goes up to 23? And then when the kids get out for the summer, there's like down to 17?
No, I just thought that works really well with the two translators. There is a town that's about 17 people in Croatia. It's called Hom. So just food for thought. Food for thought.
Random bit of knowledge.
Sure. But
It's
circling
Anyways.
back for just a second. Page 73, where the widow starts to go and this is what wraps up this first half. But the widow starts to go in a bit on what makes art major and like how it's perceived. And starts with, great names of art survive thanks to the trivial. The artwork by itself is clearly not enough. Indeed, why are we so sure that Van Gogh is still relevant thanks to his genius while underestimating the detail of the severed ear? And then moving down a little bit, as the narrator kind of responds to some of her claims. Of late, the literary marketplace has developed a penchant for long novels, and many writers seem to be competing for who can write the longest-winded work. Everybody is suddenly awed by page count, and they automatically declare these novels remarkable.
I was waiting for Brian to point out that that's like our entire modus operandi for open letter.
It's like, God damn it, Chaz! It's like another 350 pages. What's wrong with you?
We get a submission. We're like, is it 800 pages? Oh no, man, not long enough for us.
Bother.
Yeah,
it's not very serious then.
Can we see the rough draft? Can we see everything you cut out? Because there's a good chance we want to add all of that back in. I just want to be upfront with you.
That would be amazing. Amazing. I kept thinking, this is dumb on my part, but she keeps calling her, I don't know how you say that, Lelkum? Or the widow keeps referring to the narrator as that, and the narrator points out that it's like, or Leleksham, something that's Hungarian, meaning darling or oh my dear. But I kept thinking that was awful close to the Croatian for fox, which is Lisica, which is not really that close at all. But like, there's enough similar letters that I thought, wouldn't that be cool if it actually was just fox? And she's calling her like little fox throughout it, but it wasn't true.
That was a complete waste of time.
I spent way too much time trying to find that. Yep, I know.
Like 30%.
On the other hand, he did just take one of your 10 facts about Croatia by throwing in the Croatian word for fox. Just
right on.
Sorry.
Way to steal some thunder.
Yeah, exactly. I like that part too with the widow talking about that, but especially I like the section that you skipped over where she says, like, what do you remember living modern artists by? Is there a single one of them, man or woman, who has done nothing to scandalize the public? Where is a selfless, modest artist? Show me. All artists are myth makers. Some succeed in becoming famous while others do not. I love that, like the myth maker artist.
Well, I think that was really interesting for me, like rereading this section earlier today. Was over the weekend, my brother's in town, and we're talking about the World Cup, and he was talking about, to bring it back to what we're obviously here to talk about, the World Cup. But how there are Fortnite, how there aren't soccer players like there were even 10 years ago or 20 years ago that like Cantona or even Beckham as like these sort of outsized figures trying to be more than just a soccer player or having like these sort of outsized personalities and just isn't there in the same way, which I just thought.
Ronaldo.
I don't think that really counts. Actually, I don't know. For some reason that one doesn't work for me. I'm in the same manner. Maybe I'm just being picky. Maybe just because I don't like him as a player.
Sure.
Yeah.
But
there is the Zlatan.
Yeah, Zlatan.
Yeah, that's true. All right, fine. Just destroy the whole theory.
No, but that's like a person. That's one person.
I mean,
he's a person.
Zlatan's a people into it.
He is.
Which, if you go to ESPN.com, he's on their body issue. So he's naked.
Yep.
They took pictures of him. Yep. And he has like his both butt cheeks are completely tattooed. Who would have known?
Like you go to ESPN.com, their body, he's naked. They took pictures. I just like how it keeps going.
no, but like he's got like two like of like he has like Native American dream catchers on each ass cheek. It's amazing. They're like, I don't know what he's trying to catch, but it's beautiful, man. What a guy. What a guy. The Zlatan giveth.
You've been Zlatan.
Yeah.
That was the best campaign ever. When he did that. I particularly like, because we just had our literary conference here in Rochester, The Ladder, which you were part of, Brian. You led the whole thing, actually. Kicked it all off in the morning, telling people how to do it. But then there's a section on 65 where she talks about her turn, and she's like, my turn came, I expounded on exile, which turned out to be embarrassingly stupid. I feel like that's what I do on every panel at every literary conference. Just expound on something that's incredibly embarrassingly stupid.
Well, you kind of had the unfortunate. You were on a panel of a lot of small publishers that a couple of them just had some very terrible. Like, well, when I work with an artist, it's just magical. It's like, oh, okay, cool. So if I have magic, I can get my book published. Is that what you're telling me? And like you're trying to navigate those waters. So I think you did a great job. Don't worry about it.
Wow.
That was a trip. Yeah, our conference was not quite like this one, although it's pretty funny that it mentions that like no one's there, and they're like, oh, it's probably because of a big soccer match, tying back to World Cup again.
Yeah, well, there is that, but then that's what every store uses. That it's the weather, or there's a concert going on, or
Cubs game.
There's only one time I know of that with an event I was like in any way involved with that was legitimately true. It was when Alan Hollinghurst was in town after winning the Booker Prize for Line of Beauty, and the White Sox made the World Series for the first time in however long. So like 10 people showed up, and it was legitimately because everyone on the south side of Chicago was off to like watching the Sox game. That one was true. Every other time it's not.
Yeah.
And I know we have a lot of literary people that like to listen to this. I would charge everyone to read the first section of Gone with the Mind by Mark Lehner. It's Mark Lehner's mother talking about a reading series that she does, and nobody shows up to it, and she's thanking the two people that are there and giving excuses as why they're not there. Or it's ridiculously funny.
That guy's hilarious.
If you've not read the beginning of Gone with the Mind, go check it out, because anybody that's ever tried to organize a reading or anything will completely identify with it. It's fantastic.
They'll laugh, they'll cry.
Yep.
I swear.
Speaking of laugh, the beginning of this had one of the best dick jokes ever in the book.
Are you talking about the part in the Pompeii's red light district?
Yep.
Yes.
He sure is.
I
Got it open to that page right here.
Page 55.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead and read it, because I don't know where it's at, but it was hilarious.
So talking about the guide, and the guide that is showing the narrator and other people around Pompeii. And when she drew our attention to a penis engraved on a paving stone, meant to point eager sailors to Pompeii's red light district, the men from one group snorted with childish glee. It goes on for a bit.
No, but it's the comment that she makes to the other person that doesn't get the joke.
When I remarked in passing to the Estonian woman something about how it's only the unreliable things women can't depend on, that require monuments carved in stone, she breezed right by my sentiment and reached instinctively for her husband's arm.
That is brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. Things we can't rely on. Unreliable things.
Require monuments carved in stone.
Like a wiener. That's so good. She is so funny, man.
It really is.
This whole first section's really, really funny in this, and it's such a great humor.
There is something too that seems to be like it's always subtly wickedly smart too, because you've got she's at a thing on at a conference on exile and migration and immigration, and that becomes very serious at one point. But meanwhile, she's like essentially a tourist going through, and everything's about like geography and taking this opportunity to go to Naples and see Pompeii, and to be at a conference and to talk about like immigration as like a big topic. Like it's a good like kind of parallel, and the one section is very funny, and then that section about the immigration that's long is I find it, but it's like it's pretty serious and pretty intense for a minute, where it talks about like how do they even name.
Page 59 in the Hakuna Matata section.
Yep, and it goes on for that whole thing, but then it's talking like yes on page 60 where it talks about like how they name, what words they use to call newcomers, like migrants, immigrants, asylum seekers, exiles, and how that sort of defines the relationship to immigrants and to immigration. So it's so smart in that way, and like so well kind of crafted without being super obvious about it or like bang you over the head with it.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing that really bangs people over the head in Croatia is sunshine, because there's parts of Croatia that gets 2,715 hours of sunshine a year. That's more than the people in Sydney, Australia get. So, I mean, who knew that Croatia had so much sunshine banging on their heads each year?
So I suggested a bag that I paint for this episode, and if I'd known you were going to go in this, and I seriously considered doing it and face painting for Croatia.
A little Croatian, yeah.
I should have done the whole thing. It would have been like ridiculous.
You could have done the whole thing and then dressed like Big Boy, because that's what their costumes look like.
This is true. They're costumes.
The costumes are costumes.
Costume. Oh my
I
goodness.
mean, everything we've said over the course of this podcast, that might be the thing that gets you into the most trouble.
Their uniforms, whatever. Folk costumes, uniform costumes, all the same.
Bag, you know, no biggie.
We do have a comment on the chat part about having someone having a hard time getting in the book because of the voice and autofiction feel. Always wondered how this compared to Dubravka's other fictional works. And the other main one is, one of the big ones is the Museum of Unconditional Surrender, and that has a similar sort of voice to it, where it feels like it's autofiction, like it's really using the opportunities of her life to explore these big ideas. But some of the others, like in whatchamacallit, in Lend Me Your Character, the short stories, those they do have a bit of this, but they also get a lot. They're a lot like more not experimental is the wrong word, but they play with a lot more larger ideas, because she deals a lot with like fairy tales in there and these stories that get retold and how to sort of reframe them, and that has a little bit more of a fictional vibe to it than an autofictional vibe. But this does seem to fit in very much with like Museum of Unconditional Surrender. Maybe not as much Ministry of Pain, but
yeah, it doesn't quite ring Ministry. That's the other, and that's the one I remember best of her other works. And
well, Emily Temple says that's the best one. And at LitHub, she included one of Dubravka's books. She included Baba Yaga Lays an Egg as the Croatian entry into LitHub's 32 books to read during the World Cup. Keep it right on that World Cup.
yeah.
So if America made the World Cup, what would be the book? What American book would have been the
when we did
for that?
When we did the World Cup of Literature 4 years ago, where we competed like with a representative from every country, we used a Toni Morrison book.
Just because of the Nobel, or?
Yeah, I mean, it was like, people are arguing about various ones, but it's like, she's the only living Nobel Prize winner in America, and she's still writing and still like an amazing writer, and like her book should stack up against anyone in the world. So I forget which one we used. I don't think it wasn't like Beloved or The Bluest Eye or anything like that. It was like a newer book just to be able to use things that were newer. But nevertheless, like she was like the one that we made the case for. But I think other people were arguing for like Philip Roth. I forget who else. We were going to do this all again this year, but I didn't get it together in time.
I would have done like Dean Koontz.
Yeah, Dean Koontz is a good option.
I mean, James Patterson. There's so much to choose from. I mean,
Ken Follett, Pillars of the Earth.
Yeah.
If you haven't read Ken Follett, like I don't know what you've been reading.
Yeah.
I mean, eat that, Foster Wallace. Yeah, 1,000-page book, man. Bring it.
Yeah.
No, like I felt, I agree with the with that comment. Like at the beginning of this is kind of tough to sink your teeth into, but part two, like I really started, like for me, like from a craft standpoint, I always kind of try to figure out where you start really leaning into the book, and part two is like for me, like it really hooked me. Like the voice, like it was very engaging and funny, and like I love this section compared to part one. I enjoyed part one, but to me, part one was very cerebral. It felt academic, whereas this was just like really engaging, chatty, to use a very,
not as much fox in this section.
Yeah, not as foxy.
Not as foxy.
Well, that's actually a thing I was going to bring up. Where's the fox here precisely in this first?
Yeah. Well, isn't the fox? Well, this is sort of jumping ahead again too. I wonder how this. I'll try and without spoiling anything or spoiling any potential comments. But the fox could be within the idea of this kind of creation of the myth. Like the other part of it that tied into that was when the widow's talking about the bit between Nabokov and her husband. And she's like, oh, he said once, he wrote wrote a letter. Nabokov never replied, but he mentioned that he had exchanged a few letters with him, and there's no way for Nabokov to be like, no, that never happened. Blah, blah.
Page 71.
Yeah. And that sort of like that kind of creation of the myth of the artist, I think will play more into this as like the fox being that sort of like trickster, that aspect of the fox for this.
Okay.
But I think it's just being sort of laid out right here.
Speaking of laid out, did you know that little town we're talking about, Pula, that was actually home to gladiator fights, bloody gladiator fights, where people would die and be laid out on the sand in
Wow.
Pula. So Roman gladiator fights 2,000 plus years ago took place in Pula, Croatia.
I think
Where
we
they
should
have
do
that
this.
statue to Ulysses.
You should do this every time because, like, when you launch into the little fact, it's a great time for both Chad and me to like grab our drink and take a sip. And
Yeah.
because we're certain someone's going to keep talking, we don't have to worry that there's going to be too much dead air in that moment. It's great.
Yeah,
Appreciate
speaking
it.
of dead, yeah, gladiator fights, dead.
Dead, laid out, what have you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Who knew? Who knew? What a place, Croatia, I tell you.
I think it's interesting too. I wrote this down as a note on page 71 where they talk about, is it Levin? Is her husband
Yes, Levin.
the writer? Levin? That he was one of the people that after the revolution, instead of going west, like most Russians, went east to China and Japan, which sort of echoes the Pilniak story about Japan and the Russian going to Japan and then returning back, the woman trying to return back to Russia. So that sort of pops up here again. There seems like, and I don't know how intentional these little bits are, but a lot of parts of this book seem like there are little hints that go back, almost Olympian, not Olympian in any formal sense, but how there's like a few things that keep getting referenced, or like certain situations or that get repeated.
Well, there's a bit of a fugue quality to it. I mean, and that in itself is going to be, within how she's using or how the fox is being used as a totem or representative, like, just changing the story ever so slightly each time, and gets further away from the original point, but does it just eventually end up at what the actuality was, or what the best version of it is? Yeah.
Right, because another one that pops up here is the story of when she meets Levin at his house, and he's sort of a domineering male author who like gives that woman the gift and is like super kind of crazy and insulting about it. That sort of harkens back to the Pilniak story from the end of the last section, where the woman goes to the party and has like the assault. So like there's little things that like that get just slightly altered, slightly changed. And they're sort of recreating that same dynamic or that same sort of core story, but like in a new, interesting way.
Yeah, I found it interesting too at the very first paragraph. The person that only like goes to exotic locales, and the locales are Hong Kong, Bangkok, Singapore, Tokyo.
Yeah.
Well, he only reads books from exciting, foreign locales, but then all the details have to be accurate because he's going to go there. That's how he plots out his trips.
And all those cities are in like one main area.
Yeah,
they're all
it's interesting.
All East Asian.
That is one of those. I remember was it Jan Scherstad? I think it was. Yeah, it was. When he was here doing a promotion for The Discoverer or The Conqueror, one of the first books that we published as part of a trilogy. And someone was asking him about how he'd gone to all the places that were in the book. Because the main character is like a reporter and goes to all these different cities, and it describes these cities. And someone asked him like if he had been to all those places to be able to describe them so well. And he's like, no, you only need 3 details. Like if you can find 3 details and include those, people believe that city pretty much verbatim.
That would have been the Conqueror, because the Discoverer, doesn't he spend almost the entire time like on the boat with his daughter?
Yeah. That trilogy is great.
Oh, it's so good. It's one of my those 2 books are 2 of my favorite ones that you guys published. Like that was just the Conqueror like hooked me on y'all. But what's his name? God, he did the Troubles, the Siege of Krishnapur.
Farrell.
Farrell never traveled to. I mean, I believe he was Northern Irish, but he never traveled to India. Never traveled to Singapore.
Yeah.
But he would go there when he was almost done with the book, just to confirm that he got it right. Like that was the story. He's like, I'm pretty sure this is accurate, and then he just went to confirm it for sure, and then like, all right, we're good, and then move on with his day.
That's amazing. His death is super tragic. I found we read Troubles for the Irish Book Club for this trip that I'm going on next week or this week. Oh boy, in a few days. And I found a picture of the hotel that was based on, which is pretty cool. But also, this relates to that in a weird way. For this trip that I'm going on, I have to prepare these lectures, and there's 2 on Ulysses because Ulysses. But and the Ulysses thing, I was looking for information about like all the different parts of Ulysses where they're mapped out. And instead I found that a guy had solved the one kind of riddle that Leopold Boom leaves where he's like, is there a way to pass through Dublin without going past the pub? And this guy figured it out a couple of years ago that there's like a route. And he thought he had gotten it right once, and he went and checked and he was wrong because there's like a bunch of places where you could still buy pints of Guinness. But like he found it using this computer program and all these Street View maps that he could find one route through Ireland where you don't pass a pub.
I mean, that's like figuring out the Northwest Passage.
Yeah.
You know, like that's that dude did some like Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus never accomplished shit.
No.
When you think about going through Dublin without passing by a single.
He even eliminated all hotels from the route, so you can't even stop at the hotel to get a drink. So it's like, what?
Wow.
It's kind of amazing.
That's
Yeah.
attention to detail.
Like, this is what I'm using for my lectures. So
No, I mean that's got to be like some kind of world record. Speaking of Guinness, a Guinness World Record, and in fact, Croatia, a person from Croatia holds the Guinness World Record for the biggest white truffle in the world. His name is Giancarlo Zigante. Yeah, he has it was a 1.31 kilograms, about 2 pounds 8 ounces white truffle. Guinness World Record.
that's amazing.
Croatia. Yeah, who knew? Crazy, right?
Who did?
Yep. Fun fact. Fun fact there.
Fun.
I love the description. One other part of the book is I do love the description of all the people that she joins up with, the Estonian couple for the tour.
Estonia. I just like the fact that it's Estonia.
I know.
I don't know much about. I don't have fun facts about Estonia, but I just have generalizations about Estonia. I guess.
I do remember one other thing that my students had as a reaction to this was a question about like, they were like, well, there's something in here where I think it's where maybe it was where she spoke Hungarian, but I think it might be later on. There's another part. And they're like, well, why would the narrator and this widow be speaking in English? And I was like, dude, like, it's kind of like one of the other weird parts of this book is that like when you go to those literary conferences, when there's people from Hungary and Croatia and, you know, Japan or wherever, they all end up speaking in English. And that's another sort of like subtextual part to this where you have all this about travel, about geography, about exile, about immigration, and they're all like communicating in this one language. The Estonians are there in the same group with this narrator who sort of assume is Croatian and all communicating through our crazy language.
That seems like a strange thing that would like take you out of that, you know, fictional dream. Like, I don't know if they'd be speaking English here, would they? Like, I don't believe it. I'm out.
Yeah. Fuck literature.
Yeah.
That's how this works.
I can only suspend my disbelief. So people in Estonia don't speak English, so I'm out. Done.
I know yeah. Sometimes like people, the students have some interesting comments, sometimes some interesting insights, and sometimes it's like I don't know. Yeah, it's like they just don't have as much experience reading, so they get focused on very strange things at times.
I'm curious how much they've traveled too, because I mean, if you meet people that have gone to university in other countries, almost all of them will speak a level of English of some sort. And even if you're in a country where you want to try to speak their language, if they learn that you speak English, it seems like they're very eager to want to speak English to you.
Oh yeah,
like, you can't get around it in some ways. And a literary conference would seem like English would be the common denominator that could combine all these different cultures to be able to communicate.
I'm 100% sure we talked about this on the podcast for Thomas Janssen, but there's a video of him giving a speech at a literary conference in Reykjavik where all these people are invited from all over the world, and all the presentations are in English. And so he does his in Icelandic and is like, why the fuck should I be speaking English? Like, you came to my country. Like, I'm going to speak this. And everyone in the audience is just like, I don't know. Like all the guests are like, I don't know what's happening here. And,
that's fantastic. Yeah, that's fantastic.
That
makes so much sense. I like it.
This is a great story that sort of ties in a bunch of these things too. And if I've told this before to anyone listening, I apologize. But Adam Thirlwell's first book that came out called Politics, and he got invited to a literary conference in Lithuania. So he went to Lithuania, and there's like all these Lithuanian writers and other Eastern European writers, and he was like the one like English-speaking sort of representative, which screws everything up. They have to speak in English. He doesn't know any of these languages, and they keep asking him. They're like, "Oh, we love like this American author, or this British author, or this author, this," and they're like, "Have you read any Lithuanian writers?" He's like, "No." I've not read any Lithuanian writers. I don't even know who the big people are. And he's like trying to be nice about it or whatever. And they go to do their event, and like all the speakers of like the Eastern European languages are at one table. There's like 3 or 4 of them at one table, and their books are behind them. And then he's by himself at a separate table, and his book is a wall of his books behind him. But the cover that they use in Lithuania for politics is a big penis. So he's like sitting in front of like a wall of dicks, just being like the one guy that doesn't know any Lithuanian writers, doesn't know how to speak any of the languages, and just like that was the most humiliating moment of being on an international tour.
Jeez.
I think that's a book cover idea for you, Brian.
I'm thinking about it. Yeah, that with some papyrus font. I'm down.
You should use that papyrus all through one of these a book sometime, Chad, and just.
Oh my God, could you imagine? Like I would shoot myself.
And then it would become your best-selling title, and it'd just be heartbreaking.
Then I'd have to shoot myself again.
You know.
Speaking of heartbreaking, did you know Nikola Tesla was born in the mountain region of Croatia?
That one I did know. Yep.
I mean, how did that guy's technology not take off? That's heartbreaking. But yeah, Croatian.
Edison, because of evil Edison.
More heartbreaking, his getting adopted by some jackass trying to snow everyone.
Are you saying Elon Musk isn't the new Steve Jobs for our age?
They just got his boring company just got the contract in Chicago to build a high-speed rail line between O'Hare and downtown.
Really?
Yeah, and it's supposed to be
15 minutes.
Yeah, 15 minutes from O'Hare to the Loop, and like currently it's about 45 minutes to an hour on the Blue Line. But yeah, and they're supposed to be self-funded, all that stuff. We'll see.
Is it going to be a hyperloop so I can like get inside of something and go flying?
Which is why I'm so not interested.
Those hyperloop videos make me nauseous.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to make you nauseous about Tesla at this point. So,
Good point.
Speaking of nauseous, I've almost thrown up in like 4 or 5 Alfred Hitchcock films because they're so intense. But apparently Alfred Hitchcock said that the seaside city of Zadar in the Dalmatian coast of Croatia holds the title of the best sunset in the world.
Wow.
That's a quote. That's a quote by him. He said actually that Zadar has the most beautiful sunset in the world, more beautiful than the one in Key West, Florida. So Croatia, #1 sunset according to Alfred Hitchcock.
Nice.
Who knew?
These
they're absolutely seamless. You don't see them coming.
No, they just. I have one other question for you guys about the spit though. Like it is called a balancing art, which I always want to say is a balancing act.
I read that wrong the first time actually.
Yeah. Do you have any? I mean, we have to wait till we finish it, I suppose, this section. But any insight into why it's a balancing art instead of balancing act?
I already talked about Game of Thrones, so I don't know.
I don't have a good explanation at the moment, but I just thought it was interesting that it is specifically that.
Well, I mean, in some regards, I was assuming it had something to do with translation and the interchange. I mean, trying to get words and get ideas across correctly. Like, as you pointed out, the fact that everyone's speaking English because it's just a convenient lingua franca for everyone at these conferences. And I mean, even the whole section in Pompeii where the Neapolitan woman is like giving them the tour and explaining everything to them. But there's on 55, and actually, in some ways, she sounds a little bit like Brian here, with dramatic language. The Neapolitan woman painting for us the catastrophe of 2,000 years ago, comparing Vesuvius to a pressure cooker, pronouncing the word eruption.
Eruption.
I mean, yeah. But rolling her eyes framed with her thick brush-like lashes, so the men, their foreheads scorching in the hot afternoon sun, now also smirked at the word eruption, tying back into the penises that they chuckled at earlier.
Yeah.
But what makes her most like Brian is the bottom there. I don't like the young women bullied are flagging attention by frequent use of the phrase. Now, surely you can imagine, and repeating that the people of Pompeii were buried under volcanic ash. I don't know where she pulled the fact from, but she trotted it out at least 5 times.
Touche. That's excellent. Yeah, good point.
Spot on.
And for the record, Cheb, that's my favorite line in this section.
Boom. There you go.
Can we have Van Halen's Eruption for the intro music, maybe? After?
Oh man,
I can't even think of what that song sounds like, but sure.
It's a ridiculous, it's Eddie Van Halen with a hard-on playing a guitar solo. It's really egregious.
You mean it's like Van Halen?
It's Van Halen. There you go. Yeah.
but on the topic of the balancing art, I mean, there is a certain, there's also quite a bit, especially with regards to like Levin, the widow's husband, of trying to like, you know, his literary fame, and also the widow talks about towards the literary fame regards to Nabokov, regards to the fact that he had a very specific biogeography, as Ugresic writes it, by going east versus west, and what that gave to his literary biography functionally. But then what she talks about towards the end with regards to, you know, selfless artists not existing and myth makers, and the tension between being a great writer but also a great personality. I mean, I think that is a good chunk of what the balancing art might be referring to here.
Yeah, it's that too. That does make a lot of sense. My favorite line is probably, Pompeii was like a sweet dream of our own funeral that we dreamed with ease, knowing we weren't dead.
Oh, jeez.
I've got all the darkest ones.
Well, on that note, thank you.
Boom. Did you happen to know that Croatia is very dark? No.
He just established that it's not. He
know.
already told us that it is.
It's the lightest place on Earth. They have more sun than anywhere in the world.
No, I mean, like, and you want to you want to think it's dark, but part of it too is that 10% of the land in Croatia is made up of 8 national parks and 11 nature parks. So I mean, that's
What do you
significant.
like compare the square mileage on that to just like the square mileage on Yosemite?
exactly.
10% of Croatia being national parks, still less than one Yosemite national park. Because I'll put some money down there.
Sunshine and parks. I mean, it can't be that dark. So
No. Oh my God. I don't have anything else to add to this. Do you guys?
I'm good.
You need a
Not-
favorite line there, Brian.
page 57. Not interested," said the Estonian woman. Sucking up the spaghetti with a youthful vigor.
Well done.
Wow.
Man. So next week, we'll figure out what's going on next week. I'm going to be in Ireland, so I'm not sure how we will record this or if there'll be a guest host, but everyone stay tuned to our Twitter account, which is open_letter. Chad W Post.
Hell, Brian, you might see me again next week.
I'm hoping that Santiago would be willing to.
That could be fun.
Oh, fine. That's cool. That's cool, Chad. Just shoot me down. That's all right.
Yep.
It's not like you're not looking at me. It's not like you're not looking at me right now.
Yeah, in your eye. God, Chad. I think we should just team up against Chad. Screw you, Chad. Jeez.
Yeah, we launched the 1 month review. Just to... It takes us 1 month.
6-minute abs.
It's something but Jimmy Patterson middle grade books. That's all it is.
Oh man. But yeah, because otherwise I think it would be like 2:00 in Dublin when they're in Ireland. Well, this would be being recorded, and I'm not sure I'll be good for a 2 to 3 a.m. conversation. So stay tuned to the Twitter account. We'll figure this all out. We'll announce it. Otherwise, also pay attention to 3%, the website, because we have weekly posts now from Santiago going up that get into the book a little bit deeper, talk about it in more serious tones at times. And those are the
cool.
first ones up now.
He's doing the post for this one?
Yeah.
Oh, marvelous. He's really good.
Yeah, he really is.
So I have a hard time finding 3% online. Is there an actual web address?
The web address is,
because I went to 3%.com and it was like how to win at real estate or something.
If you go to 3%,
be a 3%er.
You might get the 3%ers, or you'll get that guy that has the 3% techniques for picking up all women, or something like that.
I followed that too. It worked out very poorly for me.
Yeah, No,
I mean, he was guaranteeing 3% of the time. He was not.
Oh, God.
that might be what it was. I forget where I found that, but that was the weirdest one. So the website address is rochester.edu/college, or no, sorry, rochester.edu/3%. And 3% is spelled out. And that will take you right there. So it's on Rochester's website.
What would it cost you guys to get like 3%? Just get like 3%.biz. How hard is that?
Don't want to know. There was
No, I'm
when
kidding. I'm kidding.
When we first set this up, it was all those were taken completely, but also because it had to be on the university's server. So whatever. To get it down to rochester.edu/3%, that was the best we could do.
Can you add a link in the description? Because this is ridiculous. How is anybody going to?
There's all those are linked.
Perfect.
rochester.edu/3%.
I have no hard. I have no faith in you. I assumed like you just got to find this yourself, and
No, there's links to everything. Those show notes to this are like a goddamn novel. They have links to everything.
My dad's in town right now, and I told him, Dad, instead of using Google as a verb, you should probably use like Jeeves. Like, hey, have you asked Jeeves?
Jeez.
Forget saying I Googled it. I Jeevesed it.
Listening to that.
If you go to Ask Jeeves, we're really high up on the search engine. You'll find it within the first 3 pages.
We are well optimized on out-of-date web search engines.
Limelight has us way up there. Yeah.
Wasn't Northern Lights one of them?
I don't remember.
That was supposed to be like the book-related one.
What? What is this?
It was way back when. It was like in the 1998 era of like search engines. Northern Lights, I think it was, and it was supposed to be more like book-related and like literature and media-related search engine. And Ask Jeeves was the best because you just ask it questions, which everyone thinks is ridiculous. I still do that on Google. I'm like, what the fuck does blank, blank, blank? And it'll always find it for me. Like it's
yeah,
helpful.
like I just typed into Ask Jeeves, what's the most famous beach in Croatia? It just told me it's Bol, which is on the island of Brac. So that's good to know because there's a place called Zlatan Rat Beach, which is known for changes in shape and color depending on the wind. But the famous Bol Beach on the island of Brac, Croatia, you can find a picture of it on Wikipedia. So, just put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Nice.
There you go.
Nice.
I think I'm most impressed that Ask Jeeves actually referenced Wikipedia there. That's the thing that's blowing my mind the most. That Jeeves even knows what is a Wikipedia?
Yeah,
I have this idea of like this stuffy butler being like, sir, that is not a legitimate resource. You cannot include that in bibliography.
Ask Jeeves, what's the population of South Sudan? Does not exist. Thanks, Jeeves.
Yeah. And it gets really uncomfortable.
Yes.
Oh man. Well, Tom, thanks again for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure.
Surprise appearance.
Yeah, Tom, you really mailed it in. Way to go, bud.
That's what I'm here for. Yeah.
Where can people find you online?
At Thomas K. Flynn on Twitter and Instagram and whatnot. And then at Volumes Books for the store across all the social media, and volumesbooks.com for the store website.
And once more, let's reiterate that everyone should go buy a copy of a book, preferably Fox, but any book from Volumes this week. If everyone listening to this bought one book from Volumes, that would be one of their bigger weeks.
That'd be great. And I mean, we are doing really well with a lot of them letter lately.
Nice.
Frizzon's selling like crazy. I got a pretty solid reorder going in next week for all of your stuff, Chad. So
Nice.
Yeah, no, it's been doing well, but yeah, hell, come in. We're family. We got beer. We got coffee.
Yeah. And buy things online.
Buy a book, buy a beer.
Yeah, you can order from their website. You don't even have to be in Chicago.
Not order beer from our website, but other than that, yeah. just
you can maybe order beer from the website. You can maybe do that.
Yeah, whatever, sure. Whatever gets you on the website is fine.
And Brian, how about you?
I have a Twitter account that's BrianWood_, and I just found out I do have an Instagram. I had no idea I had Instagram. It's Brian_W_Wood. So I have 0 followers, and I'm following no one on there. And I have 0 posts.
I'm about to follow you.
So
I'm
I will get on there.
gonna tag you in every post this week, Brian.
Excellent.
We're gonna build your identity. That's happening this week.
I will have a platform, but I'll have at least 20 followers by the end of this month. It's going to be fantastic. So
I have Instagram and I never, ever, 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 ever use it.
if you look at me up on Ask Jeeves, it'll show up.
Easy to find.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay, thanks guys, and we'll talk next week about Fox, the last half of A Balancing Art.
Wonderful.
Bye, guys.